Landlords in Ontario operate under a two-tiered system, those that are under rent control and those that are rent control exempt. In each case, the landlord can increase the rent annually with a minimum of 90 days' notice. The landlord also has two additional options for rent increases under special rules which are most applicable to those with rent-controlled units. Landlords with units built after November 15, 2018 that qualify are rent control exempt, and the landlord can raise the rent to any amount after a full 12 months has passed from the move-in date or last rent increase. These are known as rent control exempt units, and a rent increase is done using a Form N2. It is very straightforward, and the form can be found on the Landlord and Tenant Board website. Most rental units in Ontario are under rent control. Rent-controlled units may only increase the rent by the guideline percentage set by the government each year. Rent-controlled increases are currently capped at 2.5% regardless of the actual inflation rate, but could be lower, including a 0% increase in a year. A landlord would use Form N1 if they are seeking a guideline rent increase only. It is very straightforward, and the form can be found on the Landlord and Tenant Board website. A landlord has two additional options for rent increases, each with their own rules. The landlord and tenant can make an agreement to increase the rent for an additional 3% for capital work or a new service. The agreement can be for a single year and cannot exceed an additional 3%. For example, if the rent is $1,000 per month and the landlord and tenant agree to have a new kitchen installed, and the current allowable rent increase is 2.5%, then the landlord could do an N10 form, for which both parties sign, for an increase of 5.5% on the next rent increase date. The Form N10 would serve as the rent increase notice. See the full video on how to complete an N10 with your tenant for an above guideline increase with agreement. The landlord can file with the Landlord and Tenant Board for an above guideline increase or AGI due to capital work, new security services, or significant increase in property taxes. The AGI can be used for all three expenses, as applicable, on the same form. The AGI can order an increase for 3 consecutive years, not exceeding an additional 3% in any given year. The landlord would use a Form L5 to seek an above guideline increase order. It's a very complicated form, and the landlord should be prepared to spend significant time learning the form or using an experienced professional. See the full video on how to complete an L5 with your tenant for an above guideline increase with agreement. Like and subscribe for more helpful content.